On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use, welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. This is episode 32, created on December 6th, 2022. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota and Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, everyone. I'm having a Conshohocken Philly Special Double Hazy IPA. Gorgeous color.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm having a Lagunitas willetized coffee stout.
All right, and it's beer night on the show. I've got my Pabst Blue Ribbon and my Packer can koozie for tonight. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And the audio will be available on Spotify and Anchor by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, this week, we've got a big game in Chicago to talk about. In fact, taking two from Chicago and a franchise record for the Packers. We are going to do a lot of gushing about a kid named Christian Watson. We'll take a look at the NFC North and how that's going to shake out. And we've got a guest tonight, a guy named Scott Linn. He's a former national radio host, a Philadelphia native, and a Maryland resident. And we've got lots to chat with Scott. If you like pop culture and obscure pop culture references, stick around for Scott. But with that, not necessarily a pop culture reference, Jeff, but big news for the first time in a long time. I think for the first time since they really started keeping the statistic, a team not named the Chicago Bears is the all-time franchise winning record holder. I don't even know how to word it.
For this week, yes.
Yeah, for a week.
We are at 787 regular season wins.
All time.
That is the NFL record. That is the standard. We finally surpassed the Bears. In theory, this should have happened like week 4. It did not. It happened at week 13. Okay, we're just pacing ourselves. How fitting, right? Against the Bears. Head to head. It was sweet. We won. We won on the road against the Bears. That picture of Christian Watson in flight. We are all number 23 in the Zubas in the upper left-hand corner of the like woo! You know, just like holy cows. So yes, we and it's been since basically almost 100 years since another team not named Chicago Bears or Chicago Staleys have had the NFL win record. So it's great to have. Hopefully we can create a little distance.
Yeah.
You know, over the next couple of weeks. Obviously we have a bye week coming up, but hopefully we can create some distance. We can finish strong. I have no idea what the future holds. We can talk about that, but we have the record currently.
We've talked about that before too. This is something that when we were in high school, this was a concept that seemed insurmountable. The all-time win-loss record in the rivalry team between Green Bay and Chicago. We knew it was going to take 30 years to get there, and sure enough, that's that's what it took, right?
In 1992, the Bears had an 85-win lead over the Packers in the all-time. 85 wins as of 1992.
Holy shit!
We now have a 1-game lead, and yes, this is something that could have happened in week 2. But when a team has had a record for 101 years, what is a couple of extra week among friends? I mean, the last team not named the Bears or now the Packers to have this record were the Buffalo All-Americans, who in 1921 had the lead for most NFL wins with 18.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
In that game, though, we had a great day in Chicago. I think the weather was decent. The wind looked kind of wicked, though, when we were watching some of those kicks, but it didn't look like we were going to get that 787th victory. The Chicago Bears, Neil, I know you've got those statistics you want to throw out there, but it was a rough first half for us. What happened in that first half?
I mean, the basic problem is that we have been a team that can play 1 or 2 quarters, and the Bears started out pounding the ball down our throats. We get the ball the first time, and we for a change of pace, it wasn't a 3-and-out. We went 6 plays before going 14 yards. They scored a touchdown. We're down already 10-0 midway through the first quarter, and so this is kind of bleak. And then we turned it around. In that game, we actually had 3 drives of 13 plays, 3 separate 13-play drives. The first one, end of the first quarter, the beginning of the second quarter, 64 yards, ends with a short field goal to make it now a 1-score game. Chicago fumbles the ball on their next drive. Unfortunately, we turn the ball over on downs. They get another touchdown. We're down 16-3 with halftime staring us in the face. And thankfully, once we went down 16-3, we decided to play. Another 13-play drive, 75 yards, ends with a touchdown pass to Christian Watson. But that was on a 4th and 4, if you'll recall. If we don't convert that 4th and 4, we are fucked at the end of the first half. I mean, you know, two scores down.
Probably for the game, actually. Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, we definitely did some things. And, you know, this is a game that played out very much as a tale of quarters as far as what our offense did in the game. So in the first quarter, I'll note we're down 10-0 at the end of the quarter. We had 4 rushes for 1 yard. Second quarter, when we brought it to when we won the quarter 10-6, Rodgers was 7 of 13, 63 yards and the touchdown to Watson. We rushed 12 times for 64 yards in the second quarter. Third quarter, which we lost 3-0, Rodgers was 2 of 5, 25 yards. We rushed 4 times for 13 yards in the third quarter.
Good
and thankfully,
God.
we had a hell of a fourth quarter, mostly on the rushing game. Obviously, Christian Watson run being a big one. Rodgers was 4 of 6, 45 yards. We rushed 12 times for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, putting the ball down behind our running backs or behind people who were going to play running backs on TV. We crushed them in the fourth quarter on offense. And obviously we had 2 key turnovers in the fourth quarter on defense as well.
I was just going to say that. Oh, by the way, there were some turnovers. When we were texting back and forth during the game, you know, oh, there's your dagger. I'm like, oh no, there's no.
Was that a premature dagger?
Like,
a premature dagger, Jeff?
There was premature daggerization in this game. Actually, reality, not really, because the Bears never did come back. But I'm like, oh, come on. There's like 4 minutes left in the game. I mean, look what happened last night. I mean, you don't know. Green Bay has not been solid. I believe the comment was in a sarcastic tone. Oh, our defense will be able to hold the lead.
Go back to the start of the game. Neil, we got to talk about maybe some of those defensive numbers, right? Because after getting run all over by Jalen Hurts, and then the Bears open up with a 52-yard touchdown run by Justin Fields.
It was incredible.
Justin Fields had a 55-yard touchdown run that basically torched our entire defense.
And it was just, oh, here we go again.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, how does a quarterback run for 55 yards like that?
Well, he's really goddamn fast for starters.
That helps.
Yeah. But no, I mean, so one of the things that struck me about this game was the fact that, and I don't know, it's this Bears thing, maybe, I don't know, but there seemed to be adjustments made intra-game that actually were consequential, right? Yeah. Because you think, holy shit, after the first quarter, Fields is going to have like 300 fucking yards, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, how could he not? And based on what happened last week against Philadelphia, like, okay, this is going to be send the cleats to Canton. And then a funny thing happened. Suddenly the defense played defense. Now there weren't, turnovers in the first half. This was not 4 quality quarters. It was not in any way, shape, or form. However, the quarters that they did play really well were really good. And obviously the fourth quarter, they said, I've said it before, I love that picture of Watson, because it's just like, oh my God, it's like cast off the demons, or, say what you will. And this kid, and yes, I'm the guy, 4 or 5 weeks ago was like, okay, is Christian Watson a bust?
I wasn't going to bring it up, Jeff.
No, I have to bring it up because I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm like,
okay. Gave you a hard time. I was going to let that slide.
No, because I was like, okay, this, second round pick, all these expectations. he's been pretty shitty. I mean, he's had some bad luck
because of the injuries, right?
Well, the injuries, obviously every single, he dropped that first pass against Minnesota. I watched that real time and I was like, fuck, he could have had a 75-yard touchdown. He didn't. But you know what? When this kid runs, he glides and he pulls away from every single, they've got the angle. They can't catch him. I mean, he's like at a different. So, okay, fine. Now, this is a small sample size, but since week 10, he's got 8 touchdowns. That is the most touchdowns of any player in the NFL. Devontae Adams, maybe you've heard of this guy. He's got 5. Okay, that's pretty good. Watson has 8. Okay, so is Christian Watson maybe a bust? No. I'm now on the Christian Watson. Could he be rookie of the year? Maybe stay tuned. If you're a betting person, maybe you might want to put some money on Mr. Watson. Point is this. They found a way to utilize him. He's found mojo. He's found confidence. But the other thing that struck me on that long touchdown run in the fourth quarter, Sammy Watkins had a great block because they would run Christian the first, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of the year. He'd get like 4 yards and he's getting his ass kicked after like 3 or 4 yards. This guy is so goddamn fast. If he can get around that edge, if the blocking is there, it seems like they figured out, this guy, not only is he really good, but here's how we can play to the strengths and get him open, get him, even if at this point, if he drops the ball, okay, as long as he doesn't tip it up and it's a pick 6 or something. But the point is that he seemed to, like, the team is settled into, okay, this is your receiver 1. He's good. He's really fast. And now he has confidence. Stay tuned.
So one thing about that Christian Watson run, so he hit 21.7 miles per hour on that run. That was the 3rd fastest speed hit in the NFL this year. Yes. Everyone else is 5'11" or shorter than a running back. 6'5",
that's pretty goddamn fast.
Guys who are 6'5" are not supposed to hit that kind of speed.
No.
The thing about that play, and I want to kind of break down an analysis of that run, and I watched it. This is one of the few times that I've watched the play over and over again. And I know we talked about, we don't really show tape and things like that on our podcast here, but for those who watch the game and really on that play, there's only 3 people on the field who knew Christian Watson was running around left with the ball. Watson was one of them, Aaron Rodgers and Josh Blackwell, who was in man coverage for the Bears. And when you watch that play, Neil, I'm going to use a military term here for you, Neil. At the snap of that ball, every swinging dick was going to the right.
Yeah.
Everybody was going right. Every lineman is going right.
Except Watson.
A.J. Dillon is going right. Rodgers turns around. Watson gets the ball and he executes the fake. That's one of the things we don't talk about is how quarterbacks, and Brett Favre was always great for the fake throw. Rodgers executes that fake pitch out to Dillon, and Dillon does a great job of running.
Sells it totally.
Everybody goes right. Sammy Watkins now, the receiver out on the left-hand side. If you watch Watkins, he knows this is either a run right, a run left, or a quick slant to me. He knows it's one of those 3 things. And you watch him, and he makes that turn, and he realizes that there's not a pass coming to him, and he sees Josh Blackwell running at him full speed. And the thing about that is the corner that was covering Watkins never saw the handoff. He reacts to Watkins. He's only watching Watkins, which is his job. He's only watching Sammy Watkins. And he sees the way Watkins turns, he jumps because he thinks he's getting a pass. And once he realizes he's not, he sees everybody else. He actually then goes to the left thinking A.J. Dillon has the ball. And Sammy Watkins realizes everything's coming, and he sees Blackwell just all he needed is that little tag.
Yep,
and you watch the replay, and Watson gets around him, and as soon as Watson gets around him, and Watkins turns around, Sammy's got his hand up, finger up, hand up. He knew right away. He said, there's no way anybody's catching this kid. And like you said, Jeff, he just glides.
Yes. He's pulling away from the defensive backs, which is not something that you see. Typically, if they've got the defensive back has the angle, that's when they get tackled. And Watson's fucking pulling away from him. I mean, there's no way they're not going to catch him. Not going to catch him. So it's a beautiful thing to see. And it's just like, maybe this was a pretty good draft choice.
You've got the lead. You're at midfield. You've got the lead. It's the 2-minute warning. And really, the defense is probably thinking they're going to try to run this out.
Yeah.
Because the defense has their timeouts. So they were all keying on Dylan.
But they didn't run it out. And which was the way it should be. Because none of this, kind of play conservative.
We need to just talk about how this is probably easily the most aggressive play all year long.
Thank God.
Please keep doing this. Yes.
Keep your foot on the accelerator.
Right.
Don't we're going to just be conservative. Boom. And once he got around that corner, Watkins got that block. I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, it was one of the fastest runs in the NFL this season. And there was nobody near him. So, Watson's probably thinking, well, fuck, how fast can I run? Right? Because, you get to a point where it's like, because he can. And that, that jump into the end zone. I mean, I don't know. He's got to be what?
I will say that's the only thing I didn't like. I thought we were done with jumping into end zones. Aaron Jones did it a couple of weeks ago, and now Watson
but that was in an ode to beast mode. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's just. I know there's too much chance for injury.
But what a great picture!
What a great picture! It looks awesome.
Right? I mean, look at that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. It's it's human in flight, right? You and I can't fucking do that.
Not anymore. No.
No, I mean that's amazing.
Yeah, there's and searching through Twitter and all around, there's a lot of fan video of that play as well. Charlie Barron's, in fact, the Manitowoc Minute. If you go to the Manitowoc Minute Twitter page, he's up in the 300 level. He's at midfield, but on the 300 level, probably.
He's got a good view of the planets lining up from there.
He was watching boats out on Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
And he has a video of that, and it's incredible to see Watson turn that corner even from that distance, and you just know, Watkins gets that. Sammy gets that block.
Gone.
Christian Watson is gone. Yeah, it is a thing of beauty. I can watch that over and over again. It is a highlight reel play. We'll see it at the end of the season.
Play of the year so far.
Well, we'll be seeing that highlight for 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, what a great game. The defense came through. Neil, you got some defensive statistics there, a couple of interceptions in the second half.
I mean, 3 turnovers obviously is the big one. We did outgain Chicago as far as time of possession, 32 minutes to 27 and change. The defense played well when they had to play well, but it is noteworthy that Chicago had more yards than we did. Chicago had 409 yards to our 357. Now, it's interesting as far as those 409 yards, because 206 of them came on 5 plays. So Justin Fields, for example, what did we do that contained Justin Fields other than that one play? Well, what the Packers did on defense is they played zone coverage the entire game. 100% of all snaps, they were on zone coverage. And that was specifically so that the cornerbacks and safeties would not have their back turns. They'd always be able to see what Justin Fields could do. Other than that one long run, Justin Fields had 5 runs for 15 yards. So it did the job.
That was huge that they contained him.
Now, we didn't contain him from a passing perspective. He had 254 yards passing. I don't know where that I don't know where that comes from, but
was that a season high? It's got to be pretty close.
I don't know but yeah, even despite the interceptions, right? 10.2 yards per attempt passing, 90.5 QBR by that QBR rating.
Way better than Rodgers.
Way better than Rodgers. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean,
good Lord.
But obviously a lot of that was those long passes, right? The long pass to EQ, the long pass to Harry, a couple of key conversions. And I think that was what we talked about with AJ Brown last week, is that, it's not that Hurts was killing us constantly with the pass. It's that when they needed a pass, they were able to get that
Precision.
pass. And that was the part that hurt us. And thankfully, we had enough, specifically getting the turnovers and then having those long drives in order to get the victory.
So going back to our guest last week too, we talked to Dakota, our friend who's a Bears fan, and he, I think he's on the Justin Fields train. I think he's satisfied with what he sees. And then talking to him, texting with him during the game as well. Great run at the beginning. Very happy with that. But he even, said he said, I'm sure you guys see a lot of what I was talking about with Fields. You have the flashes of brilliance, but then you get a couple of interceptions there, like you said. I mean, Fields doesn't have a terrible day. And sure, not everyone, as Dakota says, not everyone is Mahomes, Watson, Prescott, things like that. But usually time prevails with quarterbacks like this. He's a mobile quarterback. Give him time to learn how to throw, how to hit those passes and pick apart a defense. I really think that Justin Fields is going to be a guy that's going to be dangerous in Chicago. The fact that they've got cap space, they've got high draft picks coming, we're going to have to worry about them for the next couple of years.
So I think that whole point of giving him time was a critical part of the game. So we had no sacks on Fields. Their offensive line only allowed 4 pressures total on Justin Fields. He was pressured a few more times just because of holding the ball forever, but you give him time to throw, he's obviously capable of being accurate and making the big throw. So the other thing that we need to talk about is our running game. So AJ Dillon has come alive over the last few weeks, 93 yards, including the touchdown. So 2 weeks in a row, he's had a 20+ yard rushing touchdown. He has looked like the AJ Dillon. He's looked like the Quadzilla that we had previously. And the statistics bear this out. Since week 10, he's averaged 5.3 yards per rush. That actually puts him 7th in the NFL over that span after starting much slower. Aaron Jones obviously was injured. He only had 26 rushes, but he did pass a Packers landmark during the game, hitting 5,010 yards, becoming the 4th Packers running back to go over 5,000 yards, only 14 yards now behind John Brockington for 3rd as far as NFL rushing yards for the Packers. There was actually one other Packers player, though, who hit a new rushing mark in the game, and Aaron Rodgers actually hit 11th in the Packers all-time rushing with 3,439 yards. Wow. So Aaron Rodgers' next person to catch for rushing yards is Paul Hornung. He's got a couple hundred yards to get to Hornung.
Oh, wow.
Rodgers is 11th for all-time rushing yards for the Packers.
The thing with Dillon, and I think that going into this season, we really wanted to see that thunder and lightning with Dillon and Jones. And Jones is just a different kind of running back. He is a workhorse because he can run out as a receiver. I think that Jones is more elusive getting through, where Dillon kind of is in that Ryan Grant mold. I'm just going to put my head down and, get through the wall and run you over. And unfortunately that doesn't always amount to big runs. Aaron Jones came out in this game for a while. And I think that part of it is the way defenses maybe read the Packer offense, whatever the tape is on the offense, how they key what the offense does when just Jones is out there versus just Dillon, or the two of them being out there. And then when you've got just Dillon out there consistently, that's when AJ Dillon flourished, when it was just him again and again.
It's kind of like one of those, okay, we're going to run the ball and we're going to dare you to stop it and we're going to run your ass over. I that's where, again, if you can get to a point where, I call it, the Wisconsin Badger offense or, whatever, I mean, even Tennessee Titans, you get to a point where it's like, okay, what we're going to do. We're going to run your ass over until you try to stop it. And that's where, and if they can do it with a fair degree of success, but then if they can get a play action, that's when Rodgers can go like, okay, if you're going to bring, 8 people into the box, then you're like, all right, then somebody is going to be open. And that's where they get the flexibility. That's where there's even more success.
So the other thing that's played a role, though, is that AJ Dillon just needs bigger holes, right? I mean, you look at what you
said big holes.
you look at what Aaron Jones was able to do early in the year. A lot of times he's like sneaking through where there's no space
Right.
whatsoever. We've had some continuity as far as the line play, even with Zach Tom playing instead of Bakhtiari. By PFF grades, Elkton Jenkins was rated 84 this week, best rated player on the Packers offense. So, our line's starting to come together, and playing with the continuity that they need to certainly is opening those holes to allow Dillon to do the types of things that he wants to do. As long as I'm talking about the PFF grades, though, the defense had 5 players with a PFF grade over 75, starting with Devontae Wyatt with an 88. It's not a name.
Mercifully, they were actually tackling this game, right? I mean, that Philadelphia game, there was all these awful, they just couldn't freaking tackle. Whereas this game was like,
still.
okay.
Too many
I mean, there were some really good, solid form tackles when they needed to tackle this game. It was like, oh, okay, there's hope yet.
We got pushed from the front 4, though. That makes a big difference as well. And it's a very much of it. Well, we had, at least in the second half, we had some of that. And, going into the PFF grades, TJ Slayton was rated a 77 this week. So, seeing our front 4 being able to make a difference helps everyone else on that defense.
The other thing that was interesting, going back to the offensive line, Neil, Zach Tom getting the start at left tackle, an emergency surprise appendectomy for David Bakhtiari. He said he was in practice. I think it was on Thursday. My abdomen wasn't feeling well. I thought he pulled a muscle or something, and talked to the trainer, and they said, well, let's go to the hospital. And he had his appendix taken out, and he was out for the game, with the stitches and such. But Zach Tom, I think, did all right pulling his own. Do you have the numbers on him, Neil?
I don't have the PFF grade, but I know that he only allowed 1 pressure. So
yeah. I mean, that's really impressive. I mean,
there's some nice plug and play, I think, on that offensive line. That next man up philosophy still rings true in Green Bay. So to see that, I think Josh Myers finally coming around and getting some good pulls and blocks downfield. But to go back to what you said there, the more you pound those holes, the bigger they get. So you just got to keep hitting them, and the commitment to the run.
She said,
as we keep saying, the commitment to the run is what we need. And I think that it showed itself again in the Chicago game. So, let's use this week off to watch a lot of tape and realize that committing to the run is going to help us down the stretch, especially 3 out of 4 at home, cold weather games. We got a Monday night game against the Rams. Let's run out the season.
Well, like I said earlier, though, because they're like learning how to, like I said, with Watson, with the Watson run, they're learning how to block what's successful. And I think, like I said, Dillon needs, like you said, bigger holes. I mean, some of these holes, like you and I could have freaking run through, right? I mean, you could drive a freaking bus through these things. It's like, how could you? That's what. But once he gets rolling, right? I mean, 2, 3, 4 yards, he's, I don't want to freaking tackle it. There's no defensive back that's going to go, I want to like get in the way of this 250-pound guy. So that's where, that's a recipe for success. And so more as they're learning. So the bye week, we've talked about the bye week being, oh my God, late, should it have been after the London game, the whole fatigue thing, can they run the table? Maybe, so now it's like, okay, now this gets a little interesting because they've figured out how to block, how to run. Watson's really freaking good. So now it's like, okay, and Rodgers, in theory, his thumb is going to be more healed-ish, so as we talked about during the game, he's still throwing the ball. The point of the ball is still down, but I think the receivers like Lazard have figured out, okay, this is how the ball is coming in at me. I have adjusted to how I'm going to catch the ball, so that's a positive. So it's a long season. So I'd like to think that, okay, adjustments have been made intra-game, outside of the game, in practice, what have you, and they're kind of gelling a little bit. Now, are they too far behind at this point, if they had two freaking more wins, things would be way different. But you know what? Can they win out? Maybe.
Well, if they do, the 4 more wins, that puts you at a 9-8 record. At least it's not a losing season.
Yep.
And we cannot win the division, the NFC North.
That's okay.
Only 2 teams right now. So Detroit and Minnesota. Minnesota's at Detroit. If Minnesota
Underdogs.
if Minnesota wins, they get the division title. Detroit favored at home by 2.5 at this point. And they could, in theory, again, win out if Minnesota loses out and take the division title. So we don't have a game to preview this week. So that's probably the game we're going to watch is Detroit and Minnesota to see how that one plays out. But other than that, Neil, anything else you had going on with this?
I still want to talk about Christian Watson. I mean, how can we not want to talk about Christian Watson? There are a couple of statistics associated with Christian Watson that really point to the superlative nature of what he has done as a Wookiee wide receiver. He's not a Wookiee wide receiver. There are a number of superlatives for Christian Watson as a
rookie. Say it with me. Rookie. Not Wookiee. Rookie. Come on, Neil. Work with us. Come on.
All right. There are a number of superlatives of Christian Watson. There's gonna be a lot of editing.
All right.
You should keep this in because this is freaking hilarious.
So there are a number of superlatives for Christian Watson as a rookie wide receiver. So just starting out from the big picture, rookie receiving touchdowns for the Green Bay Packers. Billy Houghton is first with 13 in 1952. Max McGee is second with 9 in 1954. Christian Watson is third with 7 receiving touchdowns. He's ahead of James Lofton with 6, Don Hudson with 6 as a rookie wide receiver. And he also has more touchdowns as a rookie wide receiver than Donald Driver, Sterling Sharp, Devontae Adams, and Jordy Nelson combined.
Ooh, I like that.
He also globally has now 4 consecutive games with a receiving touchdown. That it puts him one behind Billy Houghton, who has a touchdown reception streak of 5. It passes Don Hudson with 3. The statistic that I think is the craziest is putting it into the context of the entire NFL. So rookies with 8 or more touchdowns in a 4-game span in the entire Super Bowl era: Eric Dickerson, Randy Moss, Edgerrin James, Mike Anderson, Clinton Portis, and Christian Watson.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the record that is out there as far as the consecutive games with the receiving touchdown. Randy Moss's record is 7 consecutive games for a rookie. That's a record that actually broke Billy Houghton's record back from 1952. We'll talk more about Billy Houghton later. And I'm going to say
this would be a great time to have Billy Houghton as our Packer player of the past, but we don't have time for him this week. Certainly we've got the bye week here, and we'll bring Billy Houghton back next week.
So that Randy Moss character, he was kind of good.
Looking at other statistics, he has the 7 receiving touchdowns and the 2 rushing touchdowns. That 9 touchdowns total as a rookie places him tied for 3rd with Max McGee. The leader is Billy Houghton with 13 again. Eddie Lacy second with 11. He passed on Sunday Jerry Ellis with 8. And he was tied previously at 7 with Sam Congato, Dave Hampton, Don Hudson, and Buckets Goldenberg.
Wow.
Probably a name that the last one, probably not a name you're so familiar with.
That's a 1920s name.
1933 for Buckets Goldenberg.
Oh, yeah,
but he was tied with all of those. He's now 3rd in all-time rookie touchdowns with 4 games to go.
4 important games to go, most of which are at home.
So with the bye week, we don't have a game to preview. Like I said, we'll bring Billy Houghton back next week as our Packer player of the past, and we'll get ready for that Monday night game against the Los Angeles Rams. But we've got a guest, our guest Scott. He is going to join us here. He's a beer guy, so Jeff and Neil are going to talk a little bit more about their beers in detail. Our guest tonight is Scott Linn, a guy who has worked in broadcast media for nearly 30 years, and he is the Paul Sheldon to my Annie Wilkes. Formerly a nationally syndicated sports talk radio host and now a prolific podcaster. He has opinions on sports, music, movies, and beer, among many other pop culture phenomena. Scott, welcome to the show, and tell us what you're drinking.
John, pleasure is all mine. Iced uh, iced coffee. Truth be told, I was going to open up a stout when I didn't have carpool duty tonight, but at the last minute, I got to take our youngest, to basketball practice. So went back up, popped an espresso capsule. We love those things. My wife is a sucker for recycling, and can't recommend it more. Yes, we paid for it. This is not an advertisement in any way, shape, or form. We love our espresso. I didn't drink coffee until until the last couple of years. It's weird. Even all those early mornings doing the radio thing, I was a green tea guy, green tea and ice water on repeat, never coffee. Now I'm back to normal and I'm drinking coffee.
Well, we love our stouts. Jeff, you're a big stout guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Neil, you love the Guinness, right?
I love Guinness, although today's beer, I'm actually going with a radio broadcast oriented, the Maryland Mike Philly Special Double IPA. So I'm going broadcast today in honor of Scott.
Nice.
Oh, tell me more about that, please, Neil. I know it's Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, obviously. Is that what's his name's Conshohocken Brewery? Is that another Philly-based brewery?
Yes, it is a Conshohocken Brewery one, and obviously playing off the Philly Special, so the Philly Special Double Hazy. So yeah, I'm playing to the guest in multiple ways here.
That's very, very cool.
Scott,
And
I'm telling you,
unbeknownst, so I'm drinking a Lagunitas willetized coffee stout aged in rye barrels.
One of the one-hitter series, without even looking at the label. I could geek out on this stuff all day. I've been holding one-hitters, and that's not code for anything, but I've got several of them. And then periodically on a Friday night, I'm like, you know what? It's stout weather. So let's get it on. I'm very jealous.
And
Jeff,
Bourbon
I'm telling
County
you,
was just released. So
Scott, you and Neil live close enough together that you will want to get together and drink beers, I assure you.
I look forward to the day, John. Look forward to the day.
All right. So a little background on Scott. Scott, there's a saying in the broadcast industry that regardless of how much preparation training a person does, there's nothing that beats being in the right place at the right time. How does that reflect how you got into sports talk radio? What's your background?
Oh, my background was in people pleasing, waiting tables, bartending, working at food court delis. When I was old enough to go to college, I had a lot of stuff going on. Nothing traumatic. A lot of people overcome a lot more and make it through, but it just wasn't the right time. So bounced around, found myself, waited a lot of tables, tended a decent amount of bar, and a sports radio station opened up in suburban DC. May of 92. Christmas of 93, I'm working at the Cheesecake Factory in Northwest DC at Wisconsin and Western, and I'm a huge fan of the overnight guys. And I'm a listener, not a caller. I was on the air a couple times, but I was like, I just want to come in and watch you guys work. And at the time, I was attending a local community college, because that's what happens when you go to George Washington and they say, it's not them, it's not us, it's you, son. You need to go.
right.
And so I figured it out. So was messing around at a local community college, great people there, and really, really good guidance. Anyway, a lot of my friends would go out and have, Amstel lights and shots of Irish mist, because that's what college age kids do drink after hours, especially when you're waiting tables and doing pretty well. It's like, I'll have one and then I'm going to go. And then I hung out with these guys until all hours of the morning. I said, look, I'm not a stalker. I just want to work in your field. And they said, basically, what's in it for us, please? And I said, I got food, and I would either buy them dinner, boys, late night, or I would take the mistakes that were, left over in the kitchen, again, under a heat lamp. Maybe it was a little bit drier, balsamic chicken
edible,
medallions.
it's still good.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's still, so I would wrap it up and I would show up with cheesecake and dinner for them. And they would let me stay from 1 or 2 in the morning until 6 in the morning. And I would work on the machines then. I mean, back then, again, we're all of a certain age. I was rocking the reels and editing and doing my homework on the overnights. And it was just a joy. Fostered relationships with them, and too long of a story already, but they hired me to produce overnights in Christmas of 93. And along the way, I got to work with some amazing, amazing people. At times, some not so amazing people, but that's how you learn to deal with, various personalities. But what an experience. I mean, dear God, you can't write a better script. And then wound up staying there from Christmas 93 until roughly November 2020. It was a hell of a run. I was incredibly lucky.
You know, you kind of make me think of the dating advice that's out there. You know, date a pizza delivery guy because he's got a car, he's got a job, and he has pizza. Well, you kind of dated the overnight guys because you had food, you had your own car and you had food, so you were able to take care of them.
No, definitely so. And one of the overnight guys that was so kind to me from the get-go, still on the air. If you listen to Sirius XM in the noontime hour, Bruce Murray does the NFL radio, and it's Bruce and Rich Gannon.
Okay.
You know, he was there from minute one, and I bumped into him at a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and we were at the Super Bowl. I think it was the Atlanta one, but I just walked over. It's like, you're not going to remember me, and Bruce is great. Scott Linn, of course. You know, he was awesome. Very nice of him to remember, but he was great and gracious.
And then you worked your way up. I mean, you did have your own morning sports talk, nationally syndicated show. Kind of big time, got a good following out of that. And I think from that you're pretty well known, Twitter as well and nationally. And now you're kind of a prolific, I guess you're prolific on Twitter and podcasting and things like that. But you're also associated with an organization now. They know their Who songs. Tell us about You Better You Bet.
Yeah, I started over a year ago now, working with two great guys, Nick Costos and Ken Barkley. These dudes know their S. I don't know if you work blue here, so I'll watch my tongue.
We do.
Oh, speak away.
Go for it.
And they know their stuff. It's the BetQL network from Odyssey. Now it's sponsored by BetMGM. Is you know the to use your word, the proliferation of gambling commercials and what have you. It's great to have a big company supporting you, and it's a really good product. Shows all day long, shows on the weekends, but Nick and Ken are awesome. 3 to 7 weekdays. We also do a Sunday show called Countdown to Kickoff, 11 to 1 in the East. All times are Eastern. But these guys are funny. They're self-effacing. They take the product seriously, but not, but they poke fun at each other. And I laugh pretty much every day. It's not, yes, it's gambling, but gone are the stigma. Gone is the stigma. Whatever. It used to be that when we would listen to gambling shows, and they're still out there, you would get this vision of dudes
back
with
alley
cigars.
Yeah,
exactly. Dudes at a tufted banquet round table at a Vegas diner, and you're just like, who you got in the game? And that's so a relic, boys. It's not, these guys are fun. They're very hip. They're younger than I am, so that automatically makes them very hip. But they're way in touch with pop culture, and they'll talk anything. They'll talk music. They'll talk movies. They'll talk Game of Thrones and streaming. They'll talk an ton of video games, and they're good at explaining closing line value and a ton of World Cup ongoing right now, and it's a joy because they love their soccer, love it. They love their NFL. They love their NBA. It's, you name it, you can bet on it, but it's not condescending. It's welcoming because and the best part is when they lose, they tell you. We're not there to pimp a 900 line where, you got to call because that's where you get your winners and leave a mess. No, they're there. They share, listen to the show, listen to the podcasted segments and what have you. They're very good at their jobs. But anyway, John, very nice of you. Yes, I produce them. I'm the executive producer for the show.
Excellent.
And it's fun. It's fun. I mean, welcome to the world of remote, as you guys mentioned,
Sure.
where you all are. I have, I work along a team. Audio guy is in Chicago. Nick is in Staten Island or on Staten Island. I treat it like it's the Caribbean. Ken is in Connecticut. Mike, our video producers in Jersey. Bill, our video technical producers, also in Jersey. And then we just log in on an interface and we watch the show as it happens and message each other and communicate. But man, okay. Welcome to 2022, boys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Scott, you're a Philadelphia guy. You grew up mostly on the playgrounds in West Philadelphia, right?
Born and raised Northeast Philly, to be more
Northeast
specific,
Philly,
but
okay.
quite, it's yes, I was a city boy growing up.
All right.
We didn't call them. I knew what a row home was, and my cousins lived in row homes. We lived in the, hoity-toity 2-story twin. I don't even know what the bleep that was, but You would have.
It wasn't a row house. Right?
No, I wasn't. Right. The row house kids were like, yeah, get out. No, they were. The two-story twins were jammed together. They were not a duplex. Nobody lived in our basement, although I had friends that lived in duplexes. Ain't nothing wrong with that either.
Yep.
We had a breezeway between the homes that you could walk up the steps and then go in the side doors.
Nice.
Hey, how about, yeah, nice. Hey, how about that? And we had an octagonal pool in the backyard where my Siberian Husky would, during the winter months, sun herself and walk out onto the ice. So,
Well, with that said, we were hoping to have you on in the week, prior to the Packers-Eagles game, and unfortunately timing didn't work out. But that game is behind us. But now, how are you feeling about your beloved Eagles team?
Good question. I'm not an obnoxious fan by any strange stretch. I'm a realist. I still think Buffalo's better. I still think Kansas City's better. Before the Jimmy G injury, I thought that San Francisco was at the end of the year or into the playoffs. They're better, but not so much. I've tempered that. Dallas, as much as I despise them, that's a good team, and they're getting Mr. Smith back on the offensive line. Could the Eagles win it? Sure. I just think that Buffalo and Kansas City are definitely better, and Dallas is right there on a par. I really want Dallas Goedert back. I saw what happened with the Eagles when they played Tennessee. That was great. You can throw all over Tennessee, and they threw all over Tennessee. They ran. I mean, it's interesting. They ran all over the Packers. We're like, where's that been? I mean, for everybody that wants balance, I just want wins. They all count the same. It kind of doesn't matter. Sirianni can keep them guessing. So, John, in a nutshell, before I ramble for like 88 minutes on them, tempered expectations. Are they good enough? Sure, they're good enough. I want C.J. Gardner-Johnson to come back and help out the defensive backfield. They're good. They're really good. But I think Buffalo's better. I think KC's better.
Okay. Well, that you jumped ahead on the questions, but I'll let Neil chime in. Neil, you were at the link for the game, and fortunately, because of your seats, you kind of have a new view of those Philly fans. But tell Scott your old philosophy on the Philly fans.
So we talk, as Packers fans, of course, Vikings are a big rival team, and we like to make fun of the Vikings fans because they're about the most fair weather of all fair weather fans, whereas Eagles fans, certainly are hardcore fans. And so, but I've had a lot of rough incidents at the link. Basically, every time I've ever been to the link, other than this last game, I've had some sort of negative incident with some of the Philadelphia fans. And so the statement that I use is that Vikings fans are bad fans, but Eagles fans are bad people. Nothing personal. I've got a lot of good friends. I've got a lot of good friends who are Eagles fans, but I've always had bad incidents at the link. And
Neil, what can we do to change that? Like, how do we bridge that gap? Because I've seen bad fans. I've seen bad fans in New York. I've seen bad fans at FedEx when I used to go to the Washington games on a fairly regular basis for media or otherwise. Like, how do we? There's a stigma that's been going on forever, but I feel that also that's become low-hanging fruit where, you booed Santa and you threw snowballs, and it's like, oh God, we're doing this again.
That was like 40 years ago when they booed Santa, for starters.
Jeff, you're exactly right. It's like, and by the way, he was a thin Santa. You should boo a thin Santa.
There are no thin Santas.
Right.
You're an imposter.
Apparently, the answer to your question, Scott, the answer to your question, Neil, is good seats, right? The better your seats, the better the fan.
Getting out of the 300 level and 200 level definitely helped as far as avoiding Eagles fans, but you still had people going in and out. I don't know. Maybe it's just success that, since the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they've just been happier people. That's conceivably something as simple as that. So, but I just know that when I go to other stadiums or when fans of other teams come to Lambeau, it's generally a thing that you can needle other fans, but if you start to make it abusive, other Packers fans are going to call you out on that and make sure that it slows down at least most of the time. And so it's seemingly the opposite of that at Philadelphia. Anytime I've ever been there, if a fan gets into being abusive, they're going to keep being abusive and nothing's going to happen about it. So yeah, I don't mean to be overly negative about this. As I said, I had a good experience last time, but
please, it's hard to besmirch, something that's been smirched for decades. I get it.
One of the other things that we like to do on this show, we're especially this episode, we've been gushing about Christian Watson now. Anything you want to add to it? You saw him play there in Philly, and just out of curiosity, if any betting line on him being Rookie of the Year?
You know what? All right, you're going to make me do this because I can and I will. Let's just say that he's made strides, especially with the Walker injury. You don't know how that thing is going to close as far as offensive rookie of the year. So, Mr. Pierce down in Houston has been hamstrung by his head coaching and by the fact that that team stinks and they're always playing from behind. And Pierce, who ran beautifully against the Browns last weekend, didn't get in the end zone because Mr. Allen kept on giving the football to Cleveland. That's the guy's averaging like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 yards a carry, doesn't even get to sniff the end zone because they're forced to throw and wind up turning it over. But there are a couple other guys. It's getting, Olave's been up there. Garrett Wilson is also very much on the come from the Jets. I picked up Watson in several fantasy leagues weeks ago, and he's going to help me
Solid.
knock on something, win one of those leagues or two of those leagues. So I'm a fan, John. I'm a fan.
Good deal. All right. I'm going to stick to the script here just because it leads into our last question. Then in that NFL talk, 5 weeks of the season left. Tell us again, who do you like in the playoffs, Super Bowl? Who are you betting on?
Oh boy. Cincinnati's a little dangerous, especially now that Chase has come back and they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which is interesting. Buffalo and Kansas City, it's going to be devastatingly important as far as who winds up in that 1 seed. I do like Philadelphia coming out of the NFC. Trying to think. I mean, Dallas also scares the crap out of me, and why wouldn't they? So if
they do have Mike McCarthy, to be fair, and so I think that's why for those of us who are Packers fans, we think you should be a little bit less afraid.
Neil, I think you misspelled the great equalizer. And for that, I applaud you and say, kudos. It's kind of like what my Commander friends are dealing with. Oh, Taylor Heineke, man, what a great choice. The good news is about Heineke, he's very exciting. He's got a little Favre in him because he's incredibly creative. But the good news about Taylor Heineke for both teams, he keeps both sides in the game because you never know when he's going to throw a really crappy pick to close.
Like Favre.
Yeah, exactly. And again, God bless, guy attained the highest of highs. And I don't mean to even say Heineke's on a par, but he's got that.
Like you said, you just never know. Like you said, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, our preseason picks, we were big on Green Bay and Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Do you remember what your preseason pick was?
You know what? It may have been something silly. It certainly wasn't Philadelphia. I think that I really liked the Rams and the Niners out west, but both of them you can now have. And I think it was Buffalo in the AFC.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Well, Scott, we know you're short on time, so before we let you get out of here, we have a lightning round of some questions for you. Are you ready?
No, but I'll can I pass or can I phone a friend?
We can always edit things out. So yeah, do whatever you need to do. Neil, go ahead and get us started here.
Where do you go for the best Philadelphia cheesesteak, and why is it John's Roast Pork?
That's a great question. I tell all my friends. I have a very good friend named Pete, the pilot, who was flying in recently, and he, has a quick layover or what have you. He's like, I want a cheesesteak. I want a cheesesteak. I said, either go to John's Roast Pork and get a roast pork, or go to Nick's in the Reading Terminal Market, where you can get a very good cheesesteak and a solid roast pork Italian. Boys, if you have never had a roast pork Italian, cheesesteaks, everybody's like, do I go to Pat's? Do I go to Gino's? Whatever. That stuff is for the hero shots on Sunday Night Football when there is a game at the link and it's pretty and it's touristy. Don't be a tourist. Act like you know what's going on. And if you want to go to D'Alessandro's, go to D'Alessandro's, but that's a hike from like sort of Center City-ish, and not a big hike, but big enough. Stay downtown, go to Nick's, go to, John's, what's the word where all the flavors come together? The roast pork, the long hot peppers, the sharp provolone, the au jus, the bread, dude.
Flavor Town.
Yeah, seriously.
I haven't had dinner, so okay, I'm dying here.
Same, Jeff, same.
Follow-up question on that, though, Scott. Cheese Whiz, yes or no?
That was built in a lab by no. I know it's whiz wit out, the whole, that's more touristy, whatever. I'm a provolone guy. Thank you.
All right, let's go to music. Scott, which is the better version of the song Bad by U2, the live version or the studio version?
The live, no questions asked.
All right, I've got one. True or false? The INXS song "Don't Change" is not just their best song, but also in the running for top 10 songs of all time.
Oh my gosh.
I
So
didn't say this was going to be easy.
no, and this is one to ponder. It's not their best song. It's a very, very good song.
John, breathe. It's okay, John. Come back to us.
I mean, boys, let's go around the room real quick. Neil, Jeff, what are your votes for their best song of all time?
Don't change, no question.
Really?
Don't change.
You know, I'm gonna order off the menu.
All right.
Original Sin.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right, we'll allow it.
I thank you.
Yes.
Okay, different band, Depeche Mode or New Order?
Oh man, this is one of those that gets you into trouble here. The Smiths. All right, they're not on the menu. This is splitting hairs, and as you can tell, I don't have many to split. It's a 1-1A thing. I would probably say New Order.
Oh, Jeff,
Old
you
New
agree on
Order
that?
or current New Order?
Old.
All right. You get to travel back in time to 1986, kind of like the Hot Tub Time Machine, and you're hosting your own college radio show. What is the first song that you play, and why is it "Boy" by Book of Love?
I love the fact that you brought that. I would actually harken back, and I mentioned them a little earlier. So when I was at the community college, we were running the radio station, and I'll name drop, even though it's a name that you'd have to go Google. A good friend of mine, gentleman named Zev Feldman, lovely human being. If you look him up when we're done with this podcast, he's known as the Jazz Detective. So he's like legit world famous now, and it's hysterical because I meet him for lunch, and he's as humble as the day is long. His job, aside from being a producer, he goes around the planet, forms relationships with families of jazz legends, be they still with us on the planet or not, and he tries to get them to release their basement tapes or their rare recordings. So I'll tie this up, and please look Zev up. Great guy. He was the music director at WMCR, Montgomery College, Rockville, at the time. And I remember playing Tanita Tikaram, if I'm pronouncing that right, Twisting My Sobriety. That would be the one that I open with all of the time. Or Bourgeois Tag, I Don't Mind, to close. And the reason I love that, John, is it was like a 2-minute, 15-second song. So it was killing.
In and
so,
out.
This is what we're closing the hours with. Or if we need a little more of something with a sustained music bed and it was beautiful. And actually I played it for my sons the other day. Constant Craving by K.D. Lang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's you didn't think you were going to get K.D. Lang or Twisting My Sobriety tonight, did you? I'm glad I came.
All right. Hey, what era of REM is the best? The IRS years, the Warner Brothers years with Bill Berry, or the Warner Brothers years without Bill Berry?
IRS.
Solo albums are better, Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel?
All right, so I have nothing against Phil Collins, but they all sounded the same for the most part and so over commercialized. Love horns, love Phil, but after a while you're like, okay,
studio.
Yeah, this is, that was cool. Let's call Philip Bailey and have some fun and whatever. Gabriel, hands down.
How about between Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend?
While I would like to give blood, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Townsend. I really enjoyed White City and many other things, despite having seen, and I may have mentioned this to John somewhere along the line. So after Keith Moon passed, a while after Keith Moon passed, I saw Roger Daltrey at the Tower Theater at 69th and Market Streets in Philadelphia, I guess just outside of Philly. And it was the Under a Raging Moon tour. To this day, one of the most energetic, amazing shows I've ever seen. So Daltrey gets a nod for that, but give me Pete, not his hard drive. Or is it the other guy?
Last music question. Which song feels the most like summer? Hold My Hand by Hootie and the Blowfish, or Smooth by Santana with Rob Thomas?
Smooth by Santana with Rob Thomas. No knock against Hootie and the Blowfish, whom I love dearly, but I'll go with Carlos and Rob, two Bs.
Okay, switching over to movies. Which is the best 80s teen sex comedy? Risky Business, Porky's, or The Hollywood Knights?
Hey, real quick, I wrote that one specifically for Neil just because I wanted to hear him say teen sex comedy.
I did too, and I'm glad I showed up for this. This is a loaded question. Hollywood Knights speaks volumes about who I am and how mature I still am not. So it always wins. Risky Business is a wonderful movie. I remember the first time I saw it, it was on HBO, and I saw it with my parents in the basement in Philly. And I realized quickly, this is a crappy idea. Porky's is one, yeah. It's just, you're like, this is awkward. And I go, I'm gonna go upstairs. And they're like, why? I go, because I don't want to be here with you. And that was, it was simply put, Hollywood Knights is so great. And again, if you have not seen it, not again, Tony Danza, Fran Drescher, Robert Wool, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Very young Michelle Pfeiffer.
Very young Michelle Pfeiffer. It's got an insane cast. It's got the Vietnam War as the backdrop, Halloween night, 1965, car club called Porky's, the Homeowners Association, Beverly Hills, car clubs. It's got everything and an insane soundtrack to boot.
And don't drink the punch.
And don't drink the punch, yes.
So, all right. So, follow-up question, staying with the movies. What is the best John Hughes film starring Anthony Michael Hall? Would that be National Lampoon's Vacation, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, or Weird Science?
Unpopular opinion. Vacation's fine. Don't at me. 16 Candles is great, and Anthony Michael Hall was wonderful in it. Weird Science was very good. And again, speaking of, what do you want built in the lab? Cheese Whiz or Kelly LeBrock? I'll let you boys answer that on your own time. Let's
the latter.
There it is, fair. Breakfast Club is so great for so many reasons, and I still don't turn it off whenever it comes on. So Breakfast Club, please.
All right, last movie question. What's the best Walter Hill movie? The Warriors, 48 Hours, or Street of Fire?
Streets of Fire with Michael Paré.
And a young Diane Lane.
Yes.
God, Diane
really
Lane.
Young Diane Lane.
Lovely, just lovely. Man, the Warriors has to win every single time.
Mountain play.
Yeah. Give me some bottles, please.
All right, we're switching to television. Just a couple more questions. In the early days of cable television, which channel did you watch most? MTV, WGN, WOR, or TBS?
So this is the weird part. All of my friends throughout high school had cable TV. I did not. It was not moved to Maryland when I was in college and quickly. We got cable when I moved here. I probably watched a ton of MTV and VH1, a ton,
Nice.
which is how I wound up, loving music probably more than people should be allowed.
And the rest is history, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember, the premieres and the creativity and staying up late to watch. Not late. Sunday night was The Young Ones.
120
minutes. Yes, nailed it. Yeah, nailed it, Jeff. Spot on. So yeah, MTV boys.
All right, on the topic of music videos and cable television. True or false, the live video for Bruce Springsteen's Rosalita lasted as long as an inning and a half of Cubs baseball as you surfed back and forth between MTV and WGN?
Quick answer, true.
Being a Philadelphia guy, how do you feel about an Eagles fan having the nuclear codes?
Probably a little better that Dr. Jill is a Phils fan. Let's leave it at that.
Couple last questions, Scott, for you. Just miscellaneous, only because I already know kind of in my head how these are going to play out. Who is the most famous person to have literally bumped into you while walking in New York City?
A long time ago. Wait, Don McLean should write a song. That's never mind. I was walking, I forget the street, and I had pretzel with mustard, and a gentleman very quickly just shouldered me as if he looked like he had somewhere very, very important to go. He was looking sort of straight past me and just blew up my shoulder like it was a Bakhtiari block. Anyway, I turned around after I had mustard all over my cheeks and all over my shirt, and it was Julian Lennon. Much too late to say goodbye.
He was gone in a flash. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Do we have
More
time
music.
for an impersonation?
Very quickly.
All right. The 2023 U.S. Senior Open Golf Championship is going to be held at Century World Golf Course in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Now, Jack Nicklaus has twice won the Senior Open. What would be Jack's thoughts on the Robert Trent Jones Jr. designed course?
He probably overpaid for that piece of crap because I should have designed it. And that's the problem. Evil Jack designs everyone's course, and then he bangs all the women there too. Have a good day.
Wow.
You guys. Water in the juice
Wow.
box.
Scotty, with that, when are we going to get together again and drink like it's Purim?
On Purim, John, you got my
Purim.
name. You know the number. That's McCartney or something like that. No, feel free to reach out. You know, I'll, and anytime you guys want me to come back and not talk, I just want to listen to you guys. This is great.
We appreciate it. Scott, where can everybody find you online?
On Twitter at Scott Linn _ or something like that. And, you know, check out the side gig, Scott Linn PR podcasts, and support the boys over at You Better You Bet on the BetQL network.
All right. I love that you sat in with us. We appreciate it. I know your time is up, so go do the things you need to do.
Thanks for having me, and be well. Happy holidays, gentlemen. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right. That was a guest for the ages. Thank you very much, Scott. Hey, everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. As always, you can find the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat. That's all one word, Green Bay Chat. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat, and on Facebook at the GBC podcast, Green Bay Chat. I know Scott will appreciate it if you give him a follow. We'll link him when we put the episode up as well. As always, may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.